think I might spend the rest of this week just on fractions altogether. Gotta solidify that skill. Once you get fractions down, that pretty much is putting you on track to being a strong algebra student. So that's all I'm gonna do today. Once you master your skills in algebra, that puts you on track to being good in math altogether. Like that is like the gateway to every other math after that. So got to get a strong foundation. So complex fractions that contain fractions in the numerator or denominator or both. So you can have it here or here. Sometimes you have them in both places. We just call it complex. It's really not complex. All right. There's two things I want you to look into. One of them is called least common denominator. The other one is called least common multiple. Right. These are vocabulary that you got to be familiar with. They both are looking for the same type of number though. So I'm looking at this fraction. I have a 4 divided by 3/4 minus 1/2. The first thing I pay attention to is the denominators in general. I have a 4 here and a 2 there. All right. I guess everything's going to start with me talking about what an LCM is, or least common denominator, right? Basically, when we talk about least common multiples, we're talking about starting with a number and counting by that number, all right? So we're going to look at 2 and 4. So if my least common multiple between these two numbers, 2 and 4, that means I start with the number 2 and then I count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, so on and so forth. Same thing here. Okay, I got a 4, then an 8, then a 12, then a 16, so on and so forth. All right, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, like that. So the least common multiple is the first multiple that they both have in common. They both have 4 in common, they both have 8 in common, so on and so forth, right? They'll eventually have like 12 in common, 20, but the first one they have in common is 4. So for everyone that say they can't stand fractions, your main goal is to understand the least common denominator, because it's through that number you get rid of them, all right? So if you can't stand fractions, I can show you how you can get rid of them off of your sheet of paper. You should listen to that technique. So our least common multiple is 4. So I'm going to go to this problem and I'm going to multiply everything by 4. I'm going to multiply that times 4. I'm going to multiply that times 4. And I'm going to multiply this times 4. Found the least common multiple, multiply by 4 times 4 is 16, right? When you multiply these, this 4 and 3 multiplies, not the 4 and 4, okay? 4 and 3. So we get a 12 over 4 minus a 4 over 2. Believe it or not, it's about to get less complicated, all right? So what happens when you divide here? You get 12 divided by 4, you get a 3 minus 4 divided by 2, that's a 2. Notice how this is now 3 minus 2. I got 16 divided by 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is equal to 1. 16 over 1. I'm a firm believer in practice makes perfect, right? So not studying makes perfect, practice makes perfect. So in mathematics, you only get better at it through practice, through making errors, learning from those mistakes, tightening up. So I'm going to look at this problem another way using a visual approach, all right? So as you can see, I got one that says 3 over 4, then the other one says 1 over 2. Those are in fourths, that's broken in half, all right? So 3 out of 4 means I get to shade in 3 of these. 1/2 is I get to shade 1 of them, all right? 3 out of 4 minus 1 out of 2. Remember what we talked about before? This slice ain't the same as that slice. So I need to get my slices to match up. So that one has to get cut in half again, all right? That one does. When I cut that, basically what I'm doing visually is getting the least common denominator. Because now this is a 3 out of 4 minus a 2 out of 4. Notice how they have a common denominator now. 3 over 4 minus 2 over 4 is 1 over 4. Right? Of course it is. Yeah, I got this. So what I can do now is, now that I know this result is a 1 over 4, I know my denominator is 1 over 4, if that makes sense. So now I'm looking at a complex fraction all over again. And this one says 4 divided by 1 over 4. Now we're going to go back to something else we talked about maybe 2 days ago. Division is multiplication by a reciprocal. All right, so we're going to follow the arrows. The 4 is going to land right there, right? So we're about to multiply. We're about to multiply by a reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1 over 4 is 4 over 1. So I'm going to put 4 over 1 here. And there's my 4 over 1. Remember, you don't have to put over 1. We understand 4 over 1 is just 4 whole. So I could just say 4 now. And 4 times 4 is 16. Look how quick that was. So as long as you're doing correct mathematics, the approach may be different for different people, though. So I think I just showed you 2 of them. I know about maybe a couple other ways that you can approach this that makes more sense other than just remembering some rules.